What a true joy for a bishop to experience the coming together of the people, coming together of the eparchy of Parma. At the same time that we're coming together, over 200, maybe closer to 300 bishops, representing the various countries of the world and the various churches of the Catholic Communion. These bishops are meeting in synod in Rome now for a few weeks. Also this weekend, we're celebrating as we do every October, a very important ecumenical council, the seventh, way back in 787. We've been meeting for a very long time. The Synod in Rome is discussing issues related to marriage and family. The Seventh Ecumenical Council dealt with icons, as Father Brian mentioned earlier. But more than that, it wasn't just should we have icons or not have icons, should we have statues or not. It dealt with something very deep, the very character of Jesus Christ's human nature. Was he really a human being or just a shell in which God came, and the human shell was of no import? And they said no. His human nature was divinized. They taught about the Christian attitude toward what we see, feel, hear, matter. Fish, or the technical term for it. They taught that God becoming a human being, entering into the world, redeemed all of matter. Because of that, we're hearing from Pope Francis, and before him, the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople, about taking care of the universe, of the planet. Not just so that it'll be around for later, but because God became a human being, and that world of ours has been redeemed as well, and how important it is for us to care for that. Here in the coming together assembly, we're not dealing with such heavy matters, believe it or not. Just how to best fulfill the mission of the church in these 12 states, in these times. The book of Hebrews talks about our fathers, these fathers of the councils and those who went ahead of us, our spiritual ancestors. And he said, remember your fathers. Remember those who went before you and imitate their faith. He didn't say, or doesn't say, imitate them, but imitate their faith. What would their faith direct them to do today is what we need to do. We need such a faith. We certainly grieve for the many martyrs to the faith who died for their faith right from the biblical times. A couple stories in the Bible about followers of Jesus Christ dying right up until a few weeks ago, or I guess not even a few weeks ago, out in Oregon. People asked, "Are you a Christian?" And they stood only to find that they were to be killed. Or in the Middle East, even more intensely, we are called to a faith that will be a firm foundation for our service to God. Most likely, we won't be called to give up our life and die physically for our faith. But we are called to sacrifice. But this sacrifice is given a promise of a blessing beyond measure. How appropriately that one of the priorities of the pastoral plan is the deepening of our discipleship, tapping into the teaching of the universal church, from the ecumenical councils to the various synods. We thank God that we have such a church that leads us. Christian teaching, together with the holy mysteries, provides us the strength to live the Christian life. Our tapping into that would allow us that kind of faith that the fathers and the martyrs experienced. The letter to the Hebrews also talks about Jesus being taken outside the camp, outside the city of Jerusalem to be crucified. How important it is that we too are going to be called to go outside the church building, outside our comfort zone. And we need to be prepared. And we do that through this teaching, the mysteries, the communal support that we get through vibrant parishes. Again, we need to sanctify people bearing the insult which he bore, the Holy Cross, carrying that Holy Cross before us. All of us are expected to help in the sanctification of humankind, each according to our own calling, to our own vocation. I was truly edified at the presentations that the various parishes made of talented and capable people. We certainly were provided great hospitality by those individuals in the kitchen, and how wonderful that is. And we heard of people who are truly able to help with fundraising and socializing. Wonderful. Glad to see that. But also the technology, the people who were able to pull together our technological approach, the speakers themselves, so much more erudite than I could ever hope to be, the planners, the evangelizers, those who were using their extroverted personalities. Those introverts among us are thinking, oh boy, I could never do that. But they are things that we can do that they probably can't. So many people, men and women. You'll notice that all three facilitators were women today, and our speaker. We actually asked some men to be facilitators, and they said, oh no. And thank God for those women that stepped up to the plate. And I don't know how the others went, but ours was certainly marvelous. We're so pleased. And to hear from a very feminine perspective what we needed to know about moving forward. We saw these different people, clergy and laity, monastics, each with their own special vocation, their talent, their abilities, going outside the camp. The reading, or the letter to the Hebrews also calls us to a sacrifice of praise, that is, the fruit of lips which acknowledge His name, and good deeds and generosity. This worship, this divine liturgy, this sacrifice of praise spurs us on to Christian service. And we heard how some of the parishes mentioned their Christian service. And how important it is to respect the dignity of those we serve. All of this makes a strong church, a strong parish. The gospel that we heard today seems to set the Christians opposed from the world. Jesus prayed, "For these I pray, not for the world." In this particular prayer anyway. Indeed, you or I do not have responsibility for the whole world. We have a sphere of influence, and to that we will be called accountable. It is here that we can give glory to God by doing the work He gives us. In order to love all people, we must love each. How often we hear that, "Oh, I love everybody. I just can't stand him, and him." You know? No, that doesn't work that way. This loving the people and serving them is not done in isolation, but as they are in relationship to God and in relationship to each other and to us. What a privilege to follow in the footsteps of the Holy Fathers of the ecumenical councils. What a privilege to be part of a church today as the bishops gather in Rome. What a privilege for us as the Eparchy of Parma to do what God is calling us to do. I pray that each parish will make that mission local. May each of us do what God is asking of me, and you, each according to his or her vocation, each according to his or her calling. Glory to Jesus Christ.